This podcast is sponsored by FortuneFavours.ie. FortuneFavours.ie is a home workout equipment store and your one-stop shop for all home gym equipment. They are well known for their adjustable dumbbells, which combine 15 different weights in one dumbbell. They have both 24 kg and 40 kg adjustable dumbbells. Check the link in the bio of this episode for more information. So, welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with Seamus Brady and Luke Peyton from the Play On GAA Podcast just to discuss the hurling action this weekend in the Allianz Hurling League. Should be an interesting game going into matchday 3 for all the teams. I suppose, first of all, Seamus, how are things at the moment with yourself? Dublin aren't performing in the football, but at least you have the hurling at least.
Yeah, I mean, more attention is kind of switching to the hurling as more people are kind of getting frustrated with the football. It's and the hurling are working pretty well. I mean, we looked pretty good against Waterford in that draw in Parnell Park, and then put up a good victory against Antrim. So happy enough with it. I think Dublin are a bit of a sleeping giant in the hurling. I think if we manage to really get engaged, I think there's no telling what we could achieve. So yeah, looking forward to how we get on against Tip this weekend.
Good stuff. And Luke, yourself, you're also a Dublin fan. A bit of changed fortunes that the hurlers are performing better than the footballers for once.
Yeah, look, and actually, it's kind of welcome nearly. I think as well is that look, hurling's been the long forgotten kind of part of Dublin in recent years. The 6 in a row, obviously, as well, it's going to be a factor there as well. But just to see the Dubs performing well, like I think everybody in the county is behind Matty Kenny right now. They'd love to see him do well. He's really brought the team on, I think, though, in recent years as well, after kind of real troubled spell. And look, unfortunate enough last year with the injuries in the Leinster final as well. But look, progress looks really, really good, I think, here so far. And I'm really excited actually to watch the Tip game at the weekend, because I think this is actually a great chance for Dublin to lay down a marker and a statement that, look, we're here to compete this year. So that's the thing, is that sometimes in these games, Dublin have kind of got to them. They've come up against the likes of Cork in recent years and stuff like big traditional hurling counties and they've just been 6 or 7 points worse than them. So this is a big game for Dublin, even if it is league. They're going to have pretty much full strength team out, I'd say. And I think this is actually kind of a game they need to win. So I'm excited to watch it. And look, they're coming up against a team that are very much in transition. So look, need to put down a statement here.
100%. And I suppose that is the first game, coincidentally, we're going to talk about here in the podcast between Tipperary and Dublin. The game is live on GAA Go if anybody wants to watch it, 5 o'clock on Saturday in Salthill Stadium. I suppose, first of all, Seamus, we talked a bit about Dublin improving there, but what about Tipperary? I suppose they've won their first 2 games, not comprehensively by any manner or means against Laois and Kilkenny, but at the same time, for this young team with Colin Bonner stamping his authority on the team, that has to be positive for them.
Yeah, definitely. And the way that he bounced back, obviously they lost to Kerry in the pre-season tournament, which was a massive blow, really kind of a bit of an embarrassment almost for Tip. But now to come back and to win the first 2 games and to really grind out a very impressive victory against Kilkenny in the second game, that can't be taken lightly. And as well, the form of Jason Ford can't be taken lightly as well. He's hitting it right now. He really kind of tormented the Kilkenny defence, because obviously they pointed it out on the Sunday game how he just sat so deep, and Niall Brastel didn't know whether to stick or twist, whether to go with him or to sit in the pocket. And I think that's going to be a massive factor in this game, that I think Dublin should put someone on Jason Ford, that regardless of where he goes, someone goes with him. You can't let one of the best hurlers in the country just sit there and just ping shots over the bar all day. Someone has to go with him. I think maybe a Conor Burke would be good for the job, to just go around with Jason Ford and just stick on him and just be a nuisance. I think we have the capability to do this. I think we have the capability to get this done. But I don't know if it's my heart overruling my head. Dublin are, notorious, as Luke mentioned, for getting to the crunch over the last few years and then, disappointing us. So I hope we can do it. But my head says the Tip are going to win by a few points.
I suppose, Luke, Seamus mentioned there about Jason Ford being a main forward, but there's also a few other forwards. Seamus Condon not hitting the right form quite yet, but still he has the potential to do so. Jake Morris seems like a very good player so far in the league. Like, there's a lot of forwards that Dublin need to contend with in this game.
Yeah, look, but I nearly probably differ slightly, I think, in that I wasn't impressed with the Kilkenny performance at all, really. I thought that I thought they were poor in large parts of it. They're obviously trying something new. They're trying to play through the hands shorter as well and to change. And they played a sweeper for that entire kind of game as well there too. So like, they hit an awful lot of wides. They didn't look very sharp as well. And to be honest, if Ronan Mara didn't come on for the last 15 minutes, they would have lost that game. So yeah, look, undoubtedly he'll be in starting, and that will strengthen their centre half back spot completely. And look, that's huge for them as well. I think they're just too reliant on those key players right now, the Jason Fords, the Ronan Mars right now. So yeah, like, they might get the win, I think, at the weekend against Dublin. I'm not entirely certain, but I wouldn't be overly confident about where Tipperary going into the championship this year. They are still developing players, and yeah, Jake Morris looks to be in great form at the moment. Jason Ford as well, but I'm not fully convinced that there's a huge range of scorers outside of that at the moment. They've given Dennis Maher kind of a run. I don't think he's kind of going to ever be a prolific inter-county scorer. Mark Keogh hasn't really brought the Fitzgibbon kind of form that he was showing earlier just yet too. Jared Brown's kind of same, hasn't really hit form just yet. So it's not going 100% Tip's way right now, and that's maybe why I think Dublin are kind of quietly optimistic going into this game, that they know that their forwards are actually performing to their best. Donald Burks is playing lights out stuff. Danny Sutcliffe is the same. And if they can get Ronan Hayes firing as well, then look, I think they'll be hugely confident to get a win here. So I don't know. I think it might be a bit of blind optimism, but I might go with Dublin to make a statement and go and win by a point or two at the weekend.
Yeah, definitely. So I probably personally fancy Tip to win this game, but Dublin will definitely put up a fight. And before we leave this game, actually, there's rumours circulating around Twitter or Instagram that Conor O'Callaghan actually might come back into the hurling team. Now, he was originally going to start against Kerry, starting at number 14, but he was dropped for that game. He hasn't played any football games this year. There's rumours he'll go to the hurlers, and we all know what a great hurler Conor O'Callaghan is at the moment, for Coola especially. And I'll come to you with this, Seamus. If Conor O'Callaghan comes into this Dublin team in the future, if not this year, next year possibly, could Dublin contend for an All-Ireland possibly?
I think it's a massive jump to say that he can make them All-Ireland contenders straight away. But what me and Luke have always said is that Dublin's defence is solid. The midfield is relatively solid. It's the forwards where Dublin kind of lacking compared to the top counties. And Conor O'Callaghan has been the best forward in the Dublin Club Hurling Championship over the last 5-10 years. He's been the most consistent player for Coola. He's been unbelievable. It's just that he's also unbelievable at football, that he's gone with that instead. I think it is something that he will do before he retires. I think he would regret it if he never played hurling for Dublin. But the fact that he has taken so long to come back to the football, and that the fact, obviously, you mentioned there he was supposed to start against Kerry and he didn't. There have been rumours going around for a while that he is going to come to the hurlers. And to be honest, I'd love it if he did. I'd love to see just what an impact he could have, because I think he'd go right into the team. And I think he'd give Dublin such a good option up there with Ronan Hayes and Donald Burke. And I think he would elevate us to a level where we could start to really see ourselves as competitors to the All-Ireland. I don't think we would be on Limerick's level if we got O'Callaghan in, but I do think that we'd be competing with the likes of Kilkenny a lot better if we got O'Callaghan in.
Yeah, if I could just jump in there for a second, though, I don't think it'll happen this year. I think the problem with Con at the moment was that the day of the O'Byrne Cup final, half the panel played the O'Byrne Cup final, and the other half played a challenge game up in Roscommon, and O'Callaghan did get an injury in that game. So he has played with the footballers so far this year, but I think there is definitely kind of truth to the rumour as well, though, that he's not probably entirely happy and is considering the hurling. I just don't think it'll happen this year, but I think as long as Matty Kenny's there, his club manager as well in hurling too, with Coola for that length of time, I do think that he will definitely make the jump at some stage. I just think it won't be this year. I think maybe next year could be a better bet.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see if Con makes it this year or even next year. Like, he'll be a brilliant person to add to that Dublin team, definitely. And that game is also live on GAA Go on Saturday at 5 o'clock. Next game of Division 1 is between Antrim and Waterford at 1 o'clock on Sunday in Cork Park. It says on the Scorpio app anyway. So what's your thoughts on this, Seamus? Antrim losing the first 2 games to Kilkenny and Dublin. Not comprehensively by any means. They put up a good fight in them games. Waterford drawing against Dublin and then winning their last game quite comprehensively against Laois, scoring 7 goals and I think 31 points. That was an amazing scoring rate for them. How do you see this game going?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really difficult game for Waterford because, you know, the trip up to Belfast is notoriously tough for the away team to make, but you can't look past what they did to Laois. I mean, 7-31, as you mentioned, is just bizarre. And that's without their Ballygunner lads. That's without Desi Hutchinson. That's without Pádraig Mahoney, who is coming back in. So they're only going to improve. And obviously Laois are right on Antrim's level. Maybe not right now. I think Antrim are better than Laois right now. But they're not a million miles better than them. So I can see Waterford not winning this game, but I can see it being a lot tougher. This won't be a 7-31 to whatever Antrim score. Antrim make every game that they play in a real battle, and they will do this again. But I do think Waterford will win this game by about, 6 or 7 points. It'd be interesting to see if any Ballygunner lads get a run out in this game. Obviously, they are All Ireland club champions now. They might be basking in the celebrations. But it will be interesting to me to see how soon Liam Cahill wants to get the likes of Desi Hutchinson back in the team and, up to date with their system. I think one thing is interesting as well is Michael Kiley, the role that he'll play. I mean, he's a player that me and Luke have picked out as being, a star of the future. And I mean, his performance in the Fitzgibbon there, last week was unbelievable. So he's one that I'm very interested to see what role he'll play for Waterford. But Austin Gleeson right now looks like he's really on form, and Tadhg de Burke coming back into the defence is, unbelievably important for Waterford. So yeah, I'm going with Waterford to win this game by about 6 or 7 points.
Absolutely, I'll probably go for Waterford win myself. And how do you see this game going, Luke? Yourself, do you think Waterford will find it tough in Cork Park? Maybe Antrim could scrape a draw. Do you think Waterford could win comprehensively, or will Waterford win the game, and it'll be tighter than people think?
Yeah, look, I'm really excited about Waterford. I think that the options that Waterford have at the moment is just they've huge amounts, and that I think they've the most depth out of every team in the country right now. And particularly if you look at kind of new players that have kind of come into the team, especially I think Catherine Daly in midfield's potential. I think that he will start throughout the entire championship this year. I think the form he's shown, that kind of bite that he brings as well. I think the first day, the statement that he made against Dublin was that a Dublin midfield that had Conor Burke and Chris Crummy in it, kind of the physicality that they brought, and he kind of stood up to them. And that was the problem. You look at the Limerick game last year as well, where like Jamie Barron had to be moved into corner forward for the last 20 minutes of that game because Will O'Donoghue was just dominating in around there. That Liam Cahill just seems to be finding players like Catherine Daly as well in there, and look, they're just solving their problems, I think, as it goes on. I think, just to briefly touch on what James said, I think he might leave the Ballygunner lads rather than drag them all the way up to Antrim. I think for this game, I think he'll be confident with the players he's had for the last 2 weeks that they will have enough to get the job done up with Antrim. And I think, look, for the home game the following week, then we'll see the Ballygunner lads start to be eased back into it. I think with their form right now, the forwards they have, like look at Patrick Hearn scoring 1-7 for play the last day as well. I think Michael Kiley might be involved. Austin Gleeson will be continuing to score from play freely. Stephen Bennett, I think they're going to beat Antrim. I think they'll beat them by about 10, I'd say. Obviously, very, very difficult to go to Cork Park, but I just think Waterford are my heavy favourites to win the entire league right now.
Yeah, they look like a very good outfit, definitely. And I predict Waterford to win this game, actually, as well. And just before we leave this game, obviously, I'm thinking as well, Seamus, Tadhg de Burke is back in this team, who's arguably one of the best defenders in Ireland. You've Mikey Kiley there, you have the Ballygunner lads to come back, if not on Sunday, later on in the league campaign as well. Would you see Waterford as genuine All-Ireland contenders to even challenge Limerick this year?
Yeah, 100%. I think that, obviously Luke mentioned about Cork Daly in midfield. I think he's massive to Waterford's challenge this season, because that's where Limerick dominated the game. They established the foothold there midfield that O'Donoghue and Darragh O'Donovan just bossed the midfield. Waterford couldn't physically compete with them. They had to take Jamie Barron out of there, as Luke mentioned, and that's where Limerick established their foothold on the game. Obviously, Tyke Burke being injured as well in that semi-final had a huge bearing, because, I mean, him going toe-to-toe with Keane Lynch would have been unbelievable. Shane Bennett is a forward, really. I mean, having him at centre-back, was a bit of a mad one for me. I do think he played well, but he's not on the Burke's level there. You mentioned, I think he's the best centre-back in Ireland for how he commands the position, how he dominates it. I think he's the best at it in the country. I think they are definitely All-Ireland contenders. Desi Hutchinson, in my opinion, is the most lethal forward in the country right now. That every time he gets the ball on the 20-yard line, you're just thinking goal. Very similar to how Dan Shanahan was in his peak. That, like, the second he gets on the ball, you're just thinking goal. As well as that, Gleeson looks like he's really kind of settling back down. He's just playing good hurling. I mean, the way he set up Jack Prendergast for that goal against Dublin, or the foul, that Sean Brennan put on him, the pass across the goal, just shows the genius that he still has. They're just swimming with talent. You're not even mentioning the likes of Jack Fagan, Jack Prendergast, Peter Hogan there to come back in. They're just very, very good players. Like, they're just, the amount of talent that they have, they're right up there with Limerick in terms of strength and depth. And having seen how Limerick, they just need Keane Lynch to be gone or Garrett Hegarty to be sent off, and all of a sudden they don't look as bulletproof as they did in that final against Cork last year. I do think that with a bit of the rub of the green, I think Waterford could actually turn Limerick over this year.
Yeah, definitely. They look like a very good team. So big players coming back to the team, and Liam Cahill, outstanding manager as well. What do you think yourself, Luke? Do you think they'll really challenge Limerick better than ever before this year?
Yeah, look, well, I've said, I think, from the start of the year, look, we even despite kind of league form and everything as well, Limerick have to be put at the highest level, and they have to be considered that level above beyond. Like, the last 2 years, it just proves kind of where they're at as well. And look, it's going to take something remarkable, I think, to beat them this year. But I would say, like, I think there's 3 teams that are capable of winning the All-Ireland this year. I think Limerick first, Waterford like a bit behind in second, and then I think Galway have the players to compete as well. So look, if those counties can get it right, I think any of those 3 can win it. Like, but I think Limerick still have to be the favourites. I'm just really excited about what Waterford are building. Like, even I think I would expect them to run Limerick very close this year as well. You look at the panels you mentioned, but like, those players that we've talked about as well, they're all young. They've plenty of time to develop as well. I've no doubt that as long as Liam Cahill stays with Waterford, they will win an All-Ireland, like, in the coming years. It's just a matter of kind of just getting closer to Limerick every single year. And look, this can be the year. They haven't got hugely close in the last couple of attempts. They've, like, the All-Ireland final, we know what happened. Last year, the semi-final, we know what happened. This year, look, they might just need to kind of get back to within 2 or 3 points of it, and then get that confidence that they know that they're not infallible, and then they can go on and push onto an All-Ireland, because I definitely think they're going to win one at some stage. But look, I still think you can't look past Limerick this year.
Yeah, it should be very interesting to see how Waterford develop this season, and that'll start at Cork Park on Sunday when they play Antrim at 1 o'clock. The next game actually involves the team that lost to Waterford so heavily the last day, Laois. This time they're going to Nolan Park to play Kilkenny, and Kilkenny now most definitely have the Ballyhale lads back. They'll have a point to prove after their loss to Ballygunner in the All-Ireland Club final. Like, it's hard, Seamus, to envisage anything but a hammering here in favour of Kilkenny.
Yeah, I think this could be a bad day for Laois. They're going down to a Kilkenny team that are wounded, having lost to Tipperary. I don't think the stars are really aligning for Laois in this game. I mean, the form of the Ballyhale lads coming back, I mean, they were literally an inch off being All-Ireland Club champions again. Be interesting. I'm fascinated to see which of the Ballyhale lads that they bring into the side Kilkenny. I mean, me and Luke really like the cornerback Darren Mullen. I think the way he just shut down Stephen Pickymar in that Leinster final against Clough-Ballacolla is something to really admire. And then they got obviously TJ Reid to come back in, Owen Code to come back in, Adrian Mullen to come back in. Be interesting to see when Cody brings them back in. I don't think he'll bring too many of them back in for this game, because I think he knows that, Laois is a game that they're going to win. But yeah, no, I can't see it being similar to yourself. I can't see it being anything but a hammering in favour of Kilkenny.
Yeah, same for myself. And what about yourself, Luke? Do you think Kilkenny will hammer Laois? Most people think that way, to be honest.
Yeah, look, well, I think they'll win comprehensively enough. I'm a little bit concerned. The only concern I have really with Kilkenny right now is that I'm not fully sure about their inside forward line. That, look, they'll have Owen Cody to come back in later on, and look, TJ might play a fair bit in there as well. But I think they're lacking kind of natural corner forwards a little bit. You see the kind of Martin Keown and John Donnelly both been playing inside a fair bit as well. But I think their naturally best positions are out in the half forward line as well. So I think they're kind of having to improvise a bit in the full forward line right now. So if we don't see Owen Cody and TJ back straight away, which I don't think we will, I think, like, having watched the Fitzgibbon Cup, the semi-final for IT Carlow, Owen Cody looked wrecked during that game, and he looks very, very tired after everything as well. So I think he'll be managed and given a bit of time to regain his fitness before being thrown back in. So I think, yeah, I just don't think the forward line is completely clicking for Kilkenny right now. Be interested to watch for me is that when the Ballyhale players start to come back in, does Pádraig Walsh stay at centre half forward? That maybe we might see Richie Reid slot in centre half back, I think, for Kilkenny, with maybe Brassel and David Blanchfield, and that might be able to keep Pádraig Walsh in the half forward line because he looks superb up there.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see Pádraig Walsh there. I don't think anybody would have envisaged that this season. And just before we leave this game, just a word on Laois as well, because getting a hammering off Waterford, they seem to be losing every game. They seem to be in another relegation battle this year. And since 2019, they haven't really lit their fire at all in previous years. I know they had a good performance against the likes of Watford in 2021 and Clare in 2020, obviously. But Seamus, is it only a matter of time before Laois go back down to Division 2, or do you see improvements in them starting off, not necessarily starting off on Sunday, but in the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before Laois go down. I think Antrim are, have a stronger kind of build for the future. Laois are kind of hanging on to a lot of the lads that have been doing it for them for years, like the likes of Paddy Purcell and Stephen Maher. I think Antrim, it's only a matter of time before Antrim beat Laois in one of these games. And yeah, for Laois, it's disappointing. I think losing Eddie Brennan was a massive blow. As good a manager as Cheddar Plunkett is, and I do think that Plunkett is a fantastic coach, I think Eddie Brennan was a real gem that they managed to find there. He was really building for the future. He was, beating Dublin in the All-Ireland Championship and really putting it up to Tipperary that same year as well. They really looked like they were building something. And then to lose him the way that they did as well, like, he was just asking for a bit more investment, a bit more backing, and he could get things done. And they didn't back him, and I think that was a big mistake for Laois Hurling, because I think he was had a real chip on his shoulder to prove just how good he was, and I think he could have carried Laois a long way with him. And to go back to Plunkett, who was the coach before Eddie Brennan came in, I think that really, smelled to me as if they were going backwards. And as good as Plunkett is, I think he was their manager before they got the real shot in the arm of Eddie Brennan. And to go back to that, I think they lost a lot of the momentum that they had. And now they're just kind of stagnating a bit. And I think they are waiting to go down to Division 2 again. I think it would be very interesting to see them play against Offaly, to see, could Offaly actually turn them over, because the beating that they took off Waterford was really hard to watch. And I think this game against Kilkenny would be hard to watch as well.
Yeah, it's hard to see a way back for Laois indeed. And what do you think yourself, Luke? Do you think Laois, it's only a matter of time before they go down to Division 2, or is there some revival there in the next few weeks?
Yeah, I wouldn't be as pessimistic. I think, look, they finished up with 13 there last week as well, which didn't help. A lot of late scores and everything there as well. The other interesting part is that, like, we saw last year how Antrim were the talk of Division 1 as well. But then when it came to Championship as well, look, Laois comfortably beat them as well. So I think that Laois they all seem to pull these performances out when they need it later on in the year. We already talked about, look, they probably should have beaten Clare and Waterford in those games as well, and they were putting the ball in either of those games, getting a huge result there as well. So I think they're okay. I still think they've got some serious players as well. Paddy Purcell come back in against Kilkenny at the weekend. He was suspended last day by a mile, their best player. So look, I wouldn't be as pessimistic, and look, I think they're a long way ahead of Offaly still at the moment as well. So I wouldn't be too worried about Laois. And I think when it comes to Championship, I think they'll be a level ahead of the other teams as well that they have to worry about. I think, look, Westmeath will be in the Leinster Championship later on, and look, I'd fully expect them to be beating them quite comfortably when it comes to it later in Championship. So yeah, I think they'll do okay. Yeah.
And that game between Kilkenny and Laois is on at Sunday at 2:00 in Nolan Park. The next game is live on TV on the TG4 app. It's between Galway and Wexford. Now, Wexford have started off with a house on fire after wins against Limerick and Clare. Galway similarly against Offaly and against Limerick, of course, in the Gaelic grounds. Both sides have beaten Limerick so far. How do you see these two sides progressing so far, Seamus?
Yeah, I think both of them have got off to the dream start. I mean, Dara Egan coming in, replacing Davy Fitz, 2 from 2, and really hard games to win. I mean, I wouldn't have expected them to beat Limerick on the opening day, even though they had home advantage. Then to go down to Clare and to beat Clare there. I mean, I know it was an under-strength Clare side without the likes of Tony Kelly and, Peter Duggan, etc. But they still went down there and got the job done. So you can't ignore that. They're still not 100% at full strength. So that's another massive positive for Dara Egan. Going into this game against Henry Shefflin's Galway, I mean, they put a bit of a beating on Offaly in the first game, which you would have expected. And then to beat Limerick in the way that they did when Limerick, got the goal from Galan quite early and, it was looking in their favour. I thought Galway looked really good and they're unearthing some really nice players there. I mean, one that I really like, Jack Hastings, is that he looks really good. Joseph Cooney at midfield is an option that, I mean, I didn't see coming, but he looks like made for the position there. Connor Whelan looks on, fantastic form. And then the players you still got to come back in, you still got Nyland to come back in. So, I mean, they're looking really good. Connor Cooney as well, and Colin Mannion were both fantastic in the game against Limerick. So, I mean, this game against Wexford, it's hard to tell because Wexford have hit the ground running too. But I think in years gone by, Galway have just about kind of got the better of Wexford. And I think that's probably how it's going to go again. But I think it will be a very close one.
Should be a very close game indeed. And I suppose, Luke, did you expect that Galway and Wexford would both win 2 games in a row, not just one of them?
No, look, I didn't. And especially Wexford, I think, was that looking at their first 2 fixtures, like Limerick at home, I don't think anyone expect them to win that game, and then having to travel down to Ennis as well. The fact that they've got 2 wins so far, like it's I think it's testament to the job they've done as well. Especially, I think it's worth considering, like that Walsh Cup game against Dublin, where they were beaten by about 20 points and looked absolutely hapless in that game as well. So it's a fantastic recovery that they've gone here. I think the win and run kind of halts this week, having to travel to Galway, and but yeah, no, I think they'll be delighted with that as well. They've pretty much already kind of put themselves in with a chance of a league final already here with the way it's gone. They've beaten 2 big teams in the division, and look, they'll have games coming up against likes of Offaly as well coming forward. So yeah, it's an ideal start for them. They're blood and players as well. The interesting thing I think about this weekend now is that, look, they've been going with that full forward line of Conor MacDonald and Rory O'Connor. So then for Galway, I think the one thing that Galway are lacking is the 2 cornerbacks. I think they're just that's the big problem for Galway right now. That Dahi Burke will probably take Conor MacDonald, but then look, they have to worry about, they need to find a cornerback who can take Rory O'Connor. So that's the thing for Galway, I think, is they need to find someone there. Maybe Darren Morrissey just needs to kind of step up and just go to the level of being like a really good inter-county cornerback. And if they can find that, I think they'll be a really, really hard team to beat. I think that's just the one thing they're lacking right now. So yeah, there's a few really interesting storylines to this as well. Be interesting that the whole resurgence of Conor Cooney as well, and Joseph Cooney, like Shefflin seems to be getting the most out of them as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to actually watch this one. I think Galway are going to win by about 4 or 5 though.
Yeah, it should be. I think Galway will win this game as well. And before we leave this game, both sides are obviously Leinster teams. Kilkenny have gone back a small bit. Dublin are a good side and all that, but maybe it's their first year really putting up to the chasing pack for Limerick. I suppose, Seamus, Luke mentioned that Galway and all are contender going to face up with Limerick and Waterford this season. But considering Wexford have also won 2 games on the trot as well, do you expect these 2 sides to be the top 2 sides in Leinster come the end of the year?
I think it's very evenly matched. I think all 4 teams that you mentioned there, Dublin, Kilkenny, Galway and Wexford, I think right now they could all beat each other on any given day. I think that they're all a lot more evenly matched than we think. I think I'm not as hot on Galway as Luke is. I think that Galway, it's more kind of a case of like, show me, don't tell me. Like, we have been really excited about Galway over the last few years, and then when it came down to the crunch, I mean, they got beaten by Dublin in Leinster last season quite comfortably when no one saw that coming. So, I mean, I am more on the case of show me, don't tell me. I mean, the hype in the league is one thing. So I do think they're a lot more evenly matched than we do think. And I think when it really comes down to it, I think any of those 4 teams could be my pick to be Leinster champions.
And what about yourself, Luke? I know you fancy Galway to be All-Ireland challengers, so you obviously expect them to win Leinster outright. But would you expect Wexford, Dublin, and possibly Kilkenny to put up a huge fight as well?
Yeah, well, look, I do think that in probably a difference kind of to previous years, I think the provincial championships look to be really, really good at the moment. And I really like the format where every team plays each other in the round robin stage as well. I think, look, Limerick, when we get back to the round robin sort of stuff, they'll find it more difficult as well. In Munster, they're going to have to travel to games as well and play kind of in provincial stuff away from Croke Park, and they'll find that tougher. But back to Leinster, I think, like, remember, like, the last time the round robin was played, the amount of draws that were on, and there was the drama at the end kind of between Kilkenny and Wexford and stuff like that with last minute points, and then teams Galway being kind of shaded out of making it. If I was to rank the teams in Leinster right now, I'd have Galway number 1, Wexford 2, Kilkenny 3, Dublin 4, and then I'd have Laois after that as well. But I think the top 4 teams, like, they can all beat each other as well. I just think when you look at the players that Galway have, and that I think the setup just probably wasn't right for the last 2 years, and they weren't getting the most out of the players they have. And that if they can get a manager that comes in and that the players buy into that, I think, look, the level of quality they have is just a level above the rest of the teams in Leinster. So that's why I'd be leaning towards them. It's just that they have to get themselves out of the round robin, because one really good team's just not going to get through Leinster this year. And I'd be really curious. I think that it could be a shock that one of the big teams that are unexpected, that are expected to kind of progress later on, won't get out. So yeah, it's definitely worth watching anyway. And yeah, but just probably favouring Galway right now. I think that Shefflin's he's doing a great job so far, and the amount of players that are coming through as well, new names as well, like even like Tom Monaghan, Jack Hastings, Keenan Fahey, all these players, they look the business as well. And just a special mention as well for NUI Galway, probably should have won a Fitzgibbon final bar that red card as well. All those players could potentially come into the say too, like John Fleming as well. Huge options Galway.
Yeah, definitely. Even Conor Flaherty for UL was a very good cornerback, and he plays for Galway as well. I know he plays football, but he could even play hurling as well if he chooses to do so. And that game between Galway and Wexford is live at the TG Car app at 2:00 on Sunday. The next game is Clare travelling to Offaly in Division 1A. This is an interesting game. Both sides have lost 2 in a row. On the outset, you would say Clare are outright favourites for this game, but considering Tony Kelly still has to recover from injury, Mark Rogers got injured playing for UL in the Fitzgibbon Cup during the last week or so. So, Seamus, do you think this game could be closer than people think?
Potentially, yeah. I think Offaly were kind of dealt a bit of a bad hand, is that in the other group, Antrim and Laois had each other, that, you know, that's the game that kind of really decides who stays up. But Offaly were kind of left cut adrift with, you know, 4 or 5 of the top teams in the country. This one, I think if they're going to win any game, this could be the game that they could win, but I don't think that they will. I still think Clare will have too much in the tank for them. I still think the form that John Conlon's in, wherever he plays, will be very interesting. The likes of Cathal Malone. I think Clare will just have too much to get. I think Offaly, this might have been a year too soon to go into the Division 1, into the Shark Tank. I think it might have been a year too soon. But yeah, I can't see Clare not winning this game. But I do agree with you. I think it could be a lot closer than people think. But I do think 7 or 8 points Clare will have to spare in this one.
Yeah, definitely. Offaly will fancy their chance in this game. And what do you think yourself, Luke? Do you think Clare will win this at a canter, or do you think Offaly will push the injury-riddled banner close?
Yeah, look, well, I think the problem for me with Offaly is that, again, maybe it's a similar thing with the football. Then it might be a year too soon, kind of get promoted, and that a lot of people in the county have been saying that the strength and conditioning maybe just doesn't look right, and that physically they're not at the level of other Division 1 sides, and they've kind of been bullied in the game so far. And like, I know Clare's form has been pretty poor, and in that Wexford game, a lot of people were kind of alarmed that they looked kind of disjointed and all over the place, really. And that was a 3-point hammering, really, that loss there. So yeah, look, they're not in a great place themselves right now, but I still think you throw in some of the size of the Clare forwards like Cathal Malone, John Conlon, Aaron Shanahan, and then you still have some nice forwards like David Reedy, Shane Meehan as well. They still definitely have enough quality to win that game, and I just think physically they're going to be at a level that Offaly aren't at. And yeah, although like they're not hurling well at the moment, Clare, right now, like I still think you can't really expect anything other than maybe about an 8 or 9 point win to Clare, I think, right now.
It's just the kind of game to kickstart their season, Seamus. So I know they've had two very bad performances against the likes of Cork and Wexford, but going into a tough Munster campaign, going to April and May, do you think this will be the game to kind of kickstart their confidence going into the season of 2022?
Could be, yeah, because a win is a win at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter kind of where they go. The preparation will always be good if they win, and going away to Offaly, they won't have it easy. And I think leaving there, getting on the bus back home with a victory, I think that would be good for the morale, be good for the team to get back on the bus with a win. So I do think that it could be the kickstart for their campaign. But if they get dragged into a close one, I think it could damage the morale at the same time.
And what about yourself, Luke? Do you think this will be a game really that Clare needs to get back up in the high horse?
No. I think they'll be okay. I think you look at the players to come back in. Peter Duggan will be back in. Tony Kelly will be back in. David McInerney. With those players, it's a different team. And look, the form's not good at the moment as well. But Clare will be a good championship team. And when they have those players back in, like they're three elite players, and look, Mark Rodgers will come back in as well. I think they'll have more than enough kind of depth in there as well. And when you add those players into the starting 15, like there's maybe a few questions about the full back line in the corner, maybe, just about wing back maybe a little bit as well. But I think, look, Tony Kelly brings the scores. Peter Duggan's obviously going to bring that as well too. So I think, look, for them, it's just about unearthing a few fellas in the league. I don't think Lohan really cares at all. They know that they won't be relegated as well. If they get the win in this game as well, they won't be relegated. So they've no concerns about that. And it's just about finding more players that can be complementary pieces to those kind of big names that I've already mentioned there as well. So yeah, I think we'll see their form begin to gradually improve as the league goes on. And by the time the round robin comes around, like Ennis is a particularly hard place to go. And look, due to that, I'd say they have a great chance of progressing through in Munster.
We'll definitely be intrigued to see how Clare progress in the league campaign. Obviously, Munster, it's going to be a very tight Munster Championship this year, one of the tightest ever in most people's opinions. And that game is at 2:00 on Sunday. The final game of the Division 1 leagues is actually a repeat of the All-Ireland final last year, the first meeting between the sides since then. Limerick Cork in the Gaelic grounds. I suppose, Seamus, Limerick have lost their opening two games against Wexford and Galway. We mentioned that already. Cork have won their opening two games at a canter against Clare and Offaly, albeit not really tested in any way. How do you see this one going?
This one's very interesting because obviously, the damage that Cork took in that All-Ireland final against Limerick, that they're going to be desperate to prove that they can compete with Limerick. And obviously Limerick back-to-back defeats, not exactly how they wanted to play. They're going to be without Garrod Hegarty. I'm not sure where Cian Lynch is at. So it would be interesting to see, if Cork can really, they will want to make a statement that they can compete with Limerick. And I think getting a victory against Limerick in this game, you're talking about the league. Both sides know that they won't be relegated, etc. But no, this game does mean something. This game is about kind of the psychology of the Cork hurlers, in my opinion, that to beat Limerick will be massively important to them. And I think it will be very interesting to see, obviously, me and Luke kind of predicting that, they're going to play with wing backs of Tim O'Mahony and Robert Downey. And then the other interesting factor is Mark Keane, because the physicality that he could bring to the Cork hurlers, I think it'll be fascinating to see if he plays in this game and where he plays. Because if he plays in the half forward line, say, so he could match up physically with like a Kyle Hayes or a Diarmuid Burns, that I think this would be the game to kind of kick his tires and like see if he's up for the road. I think his potential impact on Cork hurling could be massive, and this game does mean something. And I think Cork are actually going to win this game because I think they're going to give it everything they've got. And I don't think Limerick are at 100%. So I'm going with Cork to win this game narrowly. Limerick are, we know them that they don't really turn up in the league. And yeah, I'm going to go with Cork for this one.
I suppose it's interesting because the game that Limerick needed to start off their campaign at a canter really was the game against Cork last year. I know Jack O'Connor had a good performance in that game in the Gaelic grounds, but eventually it kicked into gear in that particular game. And will it be the same story, Luke, or do you think Cork will put up a more of a challenge than they did against Limerick in their 3 games last year?
Look, I think it comes down to Kieran Kingston actually, and that look, styles make fights here, and that if they continue to go out with a half forward line with where they've Conor Cahalane, Robbie O'Flynn running up against this Limerick team, it's been proven again and again it doesn't work, and that look, they've been destroyed in the half forward and the half back line as well. And my concern, I think, with Cork right now is that look, when they play the likes against Clare on an immaculate party pitch, and when they're playing against Offaly, look, they're fantastic, and they look, it's champagne hurling and everything there as well. But I just don't think that those 2 games have shown any signs that they've kind of learned their lessons. I think from the All-Ireland final last year, like, I would have thought that Mark Coleman might have been moved to midfield this year, and that maybe we get to see Kieran Joyce given a shot at centre half back, but it's kind of gone the other way, that Joyce is being played in midfield. So it's a bit surprising, I think, with Cork as well. And that look, if I was taking this Cork team at the weekend, I'd be looking to try that. There you go, Mark Keane one wing forward, and then Sean Toomey in the other wing, and then you've Harnedy in the centre, and just bring a bit of bite. We've already talked there that like we want to see O'Mahony and Downey at the wing backs, and then if you could try play Kieran Joyce centre half back as well, and just try something a little bit different, and just to see kind of like if it brings a bit more of edge, a bit more physicality, and then you still have the likes of pace with Fitzgibbon and Mead, Luke Mead, and all these in around midfield too, so you can balance the boat out. But yeah, I'm just a bit concerned that Cork, that they might go out with a similar kind of style team to what they had in the All-Ireland final last year. And I think if they try and play that game against Limerick, they get beaten 9 times out of 10. So I think it'll be interesting to see if Cork do try and show something a little bit different and something a bit more direct, because look, I think they need, like, it is important that they keep their style as well, and that they play hurling their natural way as well, but they do need to add a bit of size and a bit of physicality to it as well, otherwise they're just going to be bullied.
I suppose, interesting enough, some people have actually mentioned that this Limerick reign of terror in many ways will come to an end, considering the water breaks are now gone, tactics. But I know that's kind of a stupid excuse, it sounds like, but some people on social media are saying that, and that referees are copying onto the fact is exemplified by Garrow Higley sending off the other night against Galway. Do you think those factors might, draw an end to Limerick's reign of dominance, Seamus, or do you think they're just myths?
No, they can't be underestimated because they're details of Limerick's excellence. And make no mistake, the water break was correctly identified by Kylie as a loophole to really hit a reset button on his team. I mean, they had the tactics board out straight away, the water bottles. It was a team talk. It wasn't a water break. It was, especially if something was going wrong, it was right. You pick up, right, you're moving here. You had a chance to reset. And the fact that that's gone now, yeah, it definitely will change Limerick, because Limerick played their best hurling in 2020 and 2021 when the water breaks were there. Now they're not there anymore. So they will have to adapt. As well as that, the fact that now Gerard Hegarty does have a bit of a reputation now. I mean, the biggest example I could give is Diarmuid Connolly against Carlow, when he put his hands on the linesman, and the coverage that got compared to the coverage that, Brian Cody putting his hands on the linesman got. I mean, because Connolly has the reputation for the red cards, for the punching off the ball, etc. And now Hegarty has the reputation for that as well. Whereas if there's a big incident in a big game where Hegarty's involved, he's more likely to walk now on a red card than he was before, because there's been so much attention drawn to what he's done off the ball. And against Galway, that red card was just ridiculous. I mean, he's literally punching him in the head with the hurl 3 or 4 times right in front of the referee. I mean, I don't know what was going through his head. And yeah, now that will draw more attention to what the other Limerick hurlers do, and discipline could be a huge factor in their campaign this season. Because as I was saying about when I was talking about Waterford, is that all you need is a red card to a key player. Like if Will O'Donoghue gets sent off, because I think he's like the Roy Keane of this Limerick team, that he's the real leader, the captain in midfield, that's like the manager on the pitch, that if he gets sent off, or if Hegarty gets sent off, the whole dynamic of the game changes. And yeah, I think people could be sleeping on just how much those details could affect Limerick, because at the very, very, very top, 1 or 2% makes all the difference. And I think if those 1 or 2% get knocked off Limerick, it could be fatal.
suppose, what's your opinion of that, Luke? Do you think the demolition of the water break and the fact that referees are copying onto off the ball incidents with Limerick would help other teams in a way going into the fight for Liam McCarthy?
Look, I'd be a bit kind of more cynical about as referees go on later in the year. Like you look at All Ireland finals and you look at previous ones where there's been kind of talking point red cards, where with the Richie Hogan kind of red card as well, referees are reluctant to give them as well. And if you look in recent years, like let's look at last year as well. Aaron Gallant should have been sent off against Tipperary and he wasn't. The semi-finals against Waterford, there should have been sending offs. Like Hegarty could have went. There was a low kind of knee and everything as well. With Tom Morrissey could have been sent off. Flanagan could have gone in the Tipperary game as well. When it comes to the big games, referees, they're less likely to give red cards as well here in these as well. So I think as the year goes on, referees become more cautious and there's less chance of a red card. So I think barring like some ridiculous moment, I think Limerick's tackling style, it's on the edge, but look, I think it'll be fine. And it's the way it's going to be refereed. I don't think it's going to change much in previous years in championships. So I think, yeah, I think that Limerick, it was a similar pattern last year in the league. They started slowly, they came back celebrating from the All Ireland and everything as well. They weren't fully kind of playing like the way they normally do. And look, to be honest, I'd say against Galway, they were moving pretty well up to the red card. And look, if the red card didn't happen, there was a good chance they could have won that game as well, though. So I don't think the crisis is as serious as people are suggesting. And yeah, I just have a feeling that Cork are probably going to play into their hands a little bit at the weekend. I think Limerick are going to be back. I think they're going to win at the weekend, unless that Kingston has some sort of trick up the sleeve where they come out with a new style of play here or something, and something that challenges Limerick and a more physicality, more aggression. But otherwise, I just think Cork stand off them a bit too much, give them a bit too much time. And yeah, I think this could be the game where Limerick kind of kickstart their season a bit. And then look, by the end of the league, I think we're going to be talking about them as the heavy favourites against Still.
I'd actually agree with you, Luke, there. I think Limerick...
just to hop quickly. If I could hop quickly on what Luke was saying, I still think that Limerick are undoubtedly the favourites for the All-Ireland. We're just looking for chinks in the armour. We're looking for, possible ways to beat them. It's very similar to when Dublin were on their 6-in-a-row run, that we're just looking for weaknesses. We're looking for places to attack them from. Like they put together in last year's All-Ireland final, probably the best performance I've ever seen in an All-Ireland final, like right up there with Kilkenny against Waterford in 2008. They looked perfect. They looked like they genuinely couldn't be a better hurling team in the world. So the fact that they have lost 2 games back-to-back, there has to be reasons as to why that's happening. And the only real player of significance that's missing is Cian Lynch. So obviously things aren't in the spot that they should be. And that's, as fans of other counties, that's just what we're looking for. We're looking for potential hope that, someone can turn over Limerick this year.
Yeah, I suppose I was going to say there that I agree with Luke that Limerick usually kickstart their season, and it happens to be against Cork, and I think it'd probably be the same on Sunday. Cork will put up a good fight, better fight than the previous 3 meetings between the sides, but I just think Limerick, if they don't win now, it could be a while yet before they finally win a game. I suppose looking towards Division 2A, in particular, Carlow against Kerry, Westmeath against Meath, and Down against Kildare. One game in particular that I'd be interested in, Seamus, is the meeting of Carlow and Kerry. Carlow 1-1, lost 1. Kerry, I think, have won 2 off the top of my head. So, or they've won 1, lost 1 as well. They lost to Westmeath in the first game. So this should be a very interesting game to see who will have their eyes on promotion to Division 1.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, as you mentioned there, Kerry making the good start. I mean, the former Shane Conway and Phil McAtee's really caught my eye as well throughout the league campaign. Carlow, our side that are a bit unpredictable in hurling. I mean, they were competing with the big boys not that long ago. And since going down, they haven't really bossed it as much as I thought they would, but they still have the likes of Martin Kavanagh and Chris Nolan that, like, look, on any given day, they could go out and it could just click. So this is a really interesting one to watch that I wouldn't really know who to go with here. My mind is telling me Kerry are going to do it just to continue the momentum that they have, but I wouldn't be surprised if Carlow do it either.
Yeah, it should be a very interesting game. And what do you think yourself, Luke? Do you think both of these sides will be up there contesting for promotion to Division 1, or do you think Westmeath will ultimately get there at the end?
Yeah, well, look, I think Carlo are going to win this game the weekend. I think that they look, the loss came against Down and what was horrific conditions, very low scoring game, and I think they were very upset with some sort of refereeing stuff going on there as well. But so I think Carlo will. I think they're the best side in the division. I think, look, you've already mentioned the type of forwards that they have there already. I think they'll have enough to beat Kerry, especially at home. But I want to briefly, like, Down are playing Kildare at the weekend and stuff like that as well. They have a fantastic chance to go and win another game. And that, I think, look, that brings them to 3 wins as well. They're undefeated so far. So, that's the real story, I think, of Division 2A so far. And albeit that, look, it might have been a bit of a smash and grab against Carlow week 1, but you can't really discount them right now as well. And look, I think they have to be favourites going into that Kildare game as well. So that's the other one that I'm kind of keeping a close eye on as well.
Yeah, Down seems to be a brilliant story throughout the hurling landscape at the moment, and it'd be brilliant for Ulster hurling if they went up. And I suppose just before we finish the podcast there, lads, any idea where we could find you on social media or YouTube or whatever?
Yeah, so basically we do YouTube Play on GAA is the name of the channel, and we just do match reviews, interviews, kind of podcasts, just previews like what we're doing with yourself here. Tried to leave no stone unturned, really, in covering GAA, trying to look at it from every angle. We've been doing it since June now, so really enjoying it. And then on Instagram, we're just Play on GAA. We're looking to get on Spotify and Twitter very soon. So there'll be announcements coming up when we get on those as well.
Brilliant. And I will link the YouTube channel and all that in the bio of this episode, and it'll really help you out. And I thank you both, Luke and Seamus, for coming onto the podcast once again today. And I wish you best luck for late on down through the year. And I hopefully Dublin will perform better in football, but hurling wouldn't be too bad to win the Lee McCarthy either.
Yeah, look, I think we'll take that. Anyway, thanks, Matt, for having us on there as well. Anyway, look, your podcast has been fantastic and stuff, and everyone keep on listening to them, because some of the content's really, really good there as well. So look, thanks again for having us on. Look, hopefully get on again soon.